All right, so thanks for coming. It was super rushed. I didn't give out like as much information as I normally do, but we didn't have time. But next time I come back, and maybe we'll do something a bit longer next time, with more information and more lifting time. So, does anybody have any questions about strength? Yes?
I got a question about equipment, belts.
Belts, okay.
You know, which is the best belt to use? Or is it only just personal preference?
Well, I'm using a belt called an Inza Forever belt, which has got a lifetime guarantee. If anything goes wrong with it, send it back, get another one. So I would say I like using a lever lock belt because I think in CrossFit we do end up doing things maybe like every minute on the minute or something like that. So you can have it, you put it on, you flip it off, you put it on, you flip it off, right? Whereas we're having like a prong belt is probably going to be more difficult for you. Powerlifters prefer single prong usually, but that would be too difficult to get on and off during CrossFit. I don't like Velcro belts because Velcro belts they just can't stand up to the intra-abdominal pressure. I've had them explode on me at the bottom of the squat before. And you don't want that to happen because even if you can stand the squat up, it's very distracting and it makes you lose that intra-abdominal pressure. I also don't like the belts which are, I've seen someone wearing one, the Leo belt, right? It's like a weightlifting belt, right? Yeah, okay, and that's just because it doesn't create as much intra-abdominal pressure as a wider belt does because it's narrow on the front. To create more intra-abdominal pressure, you need to have more surface area in contact with your skin. So those ones that are wide at the back and narrow at the front were probably designed by someone that doesn't know the purpose of a belt and has never been in the gym. All right. Next question.
How often should we use a belt?
As often as possible because it helps you to understand the way of reason behind wearing a belt and helps you to get used to the position. I certainly wouldn't change things like I usually start wearing my belt at about 50%, and that's just because you don't want to be like squatting a certain way, have a certain position all locked in for like lots and lots of warm-up sets and then get to like working sets at 80 or 90% and then you wear a belt on and change everything, right? Your lower sets and your higher sets must be done the same way. And anything that changes, I mean, I've seen people as well, like they wear like Metcons or Nanos to do the warm-ups, and they'd be like, let me just go and grab my lifters. No, don't do that. It's a terrible idea because you've altered your center of balance and where you are over mid-foot. It's going to change. So belts, probably about 50%, and wear them as much as possible just so you get used to it. The thing is, people think that the belt is helping you, doing something for you. It's not. It's a tool to help you, just like lifters are a tool. You don't put lifters on and be like, oh, you put your lifters on today, that wasn't really a PR you got on your squat there. Well, no, of course, same thing with a belt, right? Belt didn't lift the weight.
Right. Yeah, so true.
Right? All right, any more questions? Yes.
Can you describe, or even if they are, any benefits to doing a variation of traditional deadlifting and sumo deadlifting?
Yeah, I think that you could maybe use a clean grip deadlift as an accessory towards the clean.
Sure.
Right? Just because the positioning of the hands and what's happening with your scaps is a little bit different, and also the setup is a little bit deeper. I'm still of the opinion, though, that people that are doing Olympic weightlifting are dead wrong on a number of points, and that they set themselves up for the clean quite deep, and then they use what they call a dynamic start. But if you actually watch any even elite Olympic level weightlifters, and I said this earlier on, the lift begins when the plates break contact with the ground. They may be in this position at the bottom, but when the plates broke the ground, they were in this position here, right? So, yeah, there are benefits to doing some other variations, but I would only ever do them as a variation, and I would make sure that my main strength work was still done with a conventional deadlift. I don't think there's any benefit to CrossFitters doing a sumo deadlift, simply because there's nothing else that you're going to do with your feet in that position. It's athletically not a good position, and the sumo deadlift is a little bit like the butterfly pull-up. You know, if this guy, if when someone had done the butterfly pull-up the first time, the judges went, oh shit, no rep, we wouldn't be seeing that now, right? And we wouldn't have had people that got a ton of shoulder injuries. Same thing with the sumo deadlift. Someone pulled sumo because it didn't say in the rules he couldn't, and it massively reduced the range of motion of the barbell. If on that day they'd had a meeting afterwards and went, what do you think about what that guy did? And they went, okay, let's not have that in the rules, we wouldn't see it today. The only time I would ever give sumo to someone would be if they lack the flexibility or mobility in their spine to be able to stop doing this, right? You find that some people are just in spinal flexion all the time. That may happen if you're 6'10", right? In which case, right, you're probably going to go sumo better, right? And that's fine, right? But I would say just stick to the conventional deadlift. Here's the thing, look, when you start to train, your body goes through a thing called adaptation, right? Now, adaptation, as you're going on, slows down. You know, it's like sometimes people come in the gym, they've been here 3 months, PR, 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 PR. You've been here 3 years, nothing's happening, right? That's because adaptation has basically maxed out, it's decreased. You're a victim of now what's called general adaptation syndrome. Now, as adaptation decreases, complexity in training must increase. What I mean is, if you've been in here for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you do not need to be doing any variations of anything. You don't need band-aid anything, you don't need chains on anything, right? Because you don't need that complexity, because your adaptation is still good. You're still picking all the low-hanging fruit from the tree, right? Only once you have stopped progressing do you need to make things more complex. That can sometimes be the thing about CrossFit, is that in the need to keep people interested, we give them too much variation. Remember that humans only adapt to increasing exposure to the same movement. It's the stress, adaptation, and recovery model. If the stress is constantly changing, the adaptation doesn't happen. So you've got to keep you know, the stress, the same movement, but just slightly heavier every week. And then therefore, you'll keep having improvements. Only once that stops, do you need to change anything. Any more questions?
Beginner's question. I've seen some training where they put plates because of rounded shoulders, or you know, like what I was doing.
Yep.
They put plates under the ends.
Yep.
Any comment on that type of training?
I think that's fine.
Oh.
In a case-by-case basis, that's fine. All that's doing is it's just diminishing the range of motion of the deadlift. It depends, you know, if you're doing this to get generally strong, then that's fine. If you want, you know, if you came to do a CrossFit competition or something, then of course that would be wrong. You wouldn't be able to do it. But I think in training, that's absolutely fine. Because the thing about training is that you want to have your students in the best position all the time that's possible. Not to make them go through the range of motion to hit points of performance if their body can't be in that position. So I think it's okay. And over time, you know, as your ability to do the movement improves, you can lower the plates. Yeah?
Oh, and it will improve.
It will improve, yeah. It'll definitely get better. Anything else?
Do you see any benefit in box squats compared to low bar and high bar?
No. Only time I would give a box squat is if a student cannot get that hip hinge movement and keep sending their knees forwards all the time. I would give a box squat just to train the movement pattern. The problem is, especially in CrossFit as well, they're teaching what's called the rocking box squat, which was something that was invented by Louis Simmons, a Westside barbell, conjugate kind of stuff. And the rocking box squat is where you know, you come down, you make contact, you rock back, and then you come up and forward. This was designed to store energy in the fibers of a supersuit. So it was for equipped lifters, which CrossFitters are not. So if you are going to box squat, you must just come down, make contact, and then up again, right? This will be how you would box squat maybe for a CrossFitter. But the same thing is that that's just a layer of complexity that they probably don't need. Yeah. Anything else?
What's your total?
No idea. CrossFit total.
No. Bench.
I don't bench press because I don't think bench press is a functional movement because the kinetic chain is too short.
It's totally overrated. I think bench press, bench press is the easiest thing to do, but also one of the easiest exercise to get hurt on.
Yep, that's it. I mean, that's the thing is people are worried about getting injured on the deadlift, and unfortunately, like a friend of mine's cousin was killed bench pressing. She was found dead in the gym in the morning because she'd been benching without a spotter and had put clips on the barbell. Never ever put clips on the barbell for the bench press. And yeah, she went in the gym, it was late at night, and when people came in the morning, unfortunately found her dead. But yeah, so bench press is a dangerous movement. It causes lots of injuries, especially people that have shoulder problems. It can cause impingement. You saw through your own rotator cuff tendons. For CrossFitters, a strict press is a much better movement because it involves a lot of trunk stability work, and the kinetic chain is so much longer because the barbell is much further from the floor. Also, As your press goes up, your ability to do movements like muscle-ups, pull-ups, toes to bar is all going to increase, as well as your push press and your push jerk. It must go up. The same way as if your deadlift increases, your clean must go up. Right? All right.
I heard you say something about you're not a big fan of butterfly pull-ups.
No.
Just because it kind of shortchanges the strength process, or?
Yeah, there's no strength being built. Absolutely. That's the thing is, well, why would people ever do pull-ups? People do pull-ups, right, because they want to develop shoulder and lat strength. So if we find ourselves in a position where we're taking advantage of momentum all the time, then we're not. I think that the butterfly pull-up has its place. It has its place for competitive CrossFitters only. Yeah, and with that, I don't think there's any need for anyone to be doing one, right? Not only that, but the supinated chin-up is also a superior movement to a pull-up, right? Right? So if we come back to what I wrote on the board earlier about criteria about muscles, why do you think I would say a chin-up is a better movement than a pull-up? Right, so if with my hands in this position, look at my biceps. My hands in this position, look at my biceps. What's the difference? My biceps are involved in the chin-up. But also they've done electromyographical studies on the chin-up and the pull-up, which is where they put electrodes on the muscles and they see what the activity is. And the activity in the back and shoulder muscles in the pull-up and the chin-up is identical. But the advantage of doing a pull-up is going to be that you're also going to involve bicep. So therefore, you will get stronger because you've added more muscles. The only reason that we don't tend to do the chin-up in CrossFit is because you can't butterfly them. Yeah, right? You know?
Can't do it yet.
Can't be done. Someone will find a way. I mean, I said a butterfly deadlift the other day. Right, so... But that's the thing is, look, I have trained people that's going to regionals, right? And that's not, just to give you guys an example. And I did not allow them to do kipping muscle-ups or kipping pull-ups or butterfly of anything, right? But now that we're becoming closer and closer to the open, I'm putting that in as a skill piece, and they are crushing huge volumes in terms of numbers. Why? Because they're so strong. It's the same. Last year I trained an Australian regionals athlete, Rachel Knox, and I didn't allow her to do any Olympic weightlifting for 6 months. No technique work, nothing. She didn't do any cleans, and then she PR'd her clean by 37 pounds because her deadlift and her squat had increased. She also went, only by doing strict pressing, she managed to go from doing 1 strict muscle up to 12 strict muscle ups. So strength is better. Static always before dynamic, always.
So in January, we should all just do strength.
Yeah, because here's the thing is, right, what you guys are doing, right, CrossFit determines work by the power equation, right? Power is strength displayed quickly. If you're not strong, you can't display power because you cannot display what you are not in possession of, right? So getting strong will always be better, and it'll always be better for general populations because most of the people coming in the door will have been exposed to aerobic work at some time, or been jogging or swimming or something like that. But how many people coming in the door have been exposed to barbell training, right? Not many. So therefore, doing all this cool aerobic stuff is not, you know, like massive 30, 40-minute WODs that crush your soul. It's, right? And that's the thing, well, the thing is about it is it's something that encourages itself because you come in here, you've never done CrossFit before, right? And then I give you a bunch of random hero WODs, and at the end of 3 months, you PR your deadlift and your squat. And then I say, oh, my programming's good. Well, it doesn't matter because that person could have went for a bike ride and improved their bench press. Because you're talking about an untrained human being. Anything that you give them will increase their ability to do work, right? So just because it works doesn't mean it works optimally. All right, anyway, I know you guys need to watch a game, so I'll call it time now. Yeah. Is there any more questions?
Sure, ask a question.
Ask one.
Ask him.
Force it.
Ask him.
So a knee sleeve is really needed if you get the proper form of the deadlift and squats.
I don't wear knee sleeves in the deadlift because it creates friction between the barbell and the leg and slows the bar speed down. People only wear knee sleeves in the deadlift to prevent their shins from being cut. If your shins are being scraped in the deadlift, you're deadlifting incorrectly because you're not respecting a vertical bar path. If the bar path is true and vertical, then it won't make contact with your shins like that. That means you're pulling the bar back into your shin as the bar is rising. this is this kind of path, not vertical. So that's why people wear shin pads on the deadlift, and why they don't need to. And if you cut your legs, you're pulling the bar back into yourself. This is wrong. Squats, absolutely, why not? It's always good to provide support through the joint. However, I can tell you that reband knee sleeves are not going to help you with that. They're nothing more than knee warmers, right? They are like 5 mil, right? That's not going to give you any support. You need like 7 mil or more.
7 mil,
Yeah.
Substantial.
And you also got to remember that in CrossFit, you can get away with whatever you want. People are wearing triple ply knee sleeves in CrossFit competitions now, right? And you can do that if you want. You can't do it in powerlifting, but you can do it in CrossFit because they haven't twigged about this yet, right? Put on triple ply knee sleeves and you're doing thrusters at 95 pounds. Your legs are almost doing no work. This guy's like working again. They're for sale after. I haven't. No, so it's like a triple ply knee sleeve. It's knitted, the fabric opposing each other 3 times, so it stretches and flexes for you. That's why they're only allowed in equipped powerlifting. Yeah, but you can wear them in CrossFit because they haven't come up with anything to
All right.
So
Let's do Fran.
This is more of an old school question. So, flat-footed or lifted when you're doing squats and deadlifts?
That's a good question. So I will say,
What was the question? I'm sorry.
flat-footed or Olympic weightlifting shoes for the squat and the deadlift. All right, so here's the answer. All right, who can tell me why we wear Olympic weightlifting shoes?
Mobility.
Right, mobility through what? Yes. If you cannot dorsiflex, right, which is this, pulling your toes towards your shin, then what's going to happen is that you're going to end up falling forwards onto your toes, okay, if you lack dorsiflexion in the squat. That is only going to happen if your knees travel forwards. So it's only going to be relevant for high bar squat, overhead squat, and front squat. If you're low bar squatting, there is no dorsiflexion at the ankle at all. So therefore, flat shoes are going to be best. Also, in the deadlift, flat shoes are going to be best, like Chucks, right? Because they give you a better foot contact with the earth. Everything's flat. If you're up on your toes and then the barbell's also pulling you forwards, then this is a position where you're going to have to sit back an awful lot more, which isn't optimal for pulling. And that's why, again, you don't see any of the biggest deadlifters in the world deadlifting in Olympic weightlifting shoes, right? The clue's the name, right? So they're doing it usually in deadlifting slippers, which are usually just ballet shoes because they're super flat, or Chucks. Yeah. Well, that was a good question.
How do you make sure your form
Come to class and ask your coach.
Well, I mean, you had to correct there, so.
Record yourself.
Oh.
Oh.
I know, and I bought about the ones that didn't come.
Only love.
Oh, go ahead, give it around.
Well, you just need to remember the points of performance yourself. Right, that's it. I mean, but you do come here. I mean, obviously, yeah, I had to correct Leonie, but she also watched me correcting a bunch of other people, so she learned something today as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I mean, the best way to make sure you have the right form is to make sure that you're doing things for the right reasons, and those reasons would be ones that completely avoid involvement of the human ego. The only time that your form is ever going to be bad is if you're deadlifting or lifting anything which is too heavy for you, or at a threshold which is too fast for you. So there's a huge element of self-control involved in coming into a CrossFit gym as well. Because as a coach, sometimes I've had the same thing where I say, look, that's going to be too heavy for you. And then the people have like some kind of tantrum, right? So it can be very difficult being a coach because sometimes maybe the person's had a really hard day. They don't need you being tough on them as well. You kind of let it slide a little bit. But then, you know what I mean? So it can be hard for us. So the biggest thing that people can do as a favor for themselves in keeping good form is to not come in with ego. But that's hard because you're still a human being. So you can't get rid of it completely. Yep.
So how often should we be doing deadlifts and back squats? I just follow the program in here, but I know we have open gyms, so if we're doing our own thing, how often?
Squat every day.
Well, I wouldn't say that you would squat every day, no. You've got this stress recovery adaptation, so your recovery time is going to be different for everybody. That's the thing. So, it's called adaptation and supercompensation. So what happens is that when you train, your body is put into a state known as distress, right? You're distressing your body by creating an alarm response. So as you work out, you're actually getting less fit. and less strong, right? So let's say I say do a 500-meter row as fast as you possibly can, and then 2 minutes later say do another one. You won't repeat the same performance. So that means as you worked out, you got actually less fit in that time frame, right? So what happens is your fitness is decreased. Then your fitness begins to recover. It returns to baseline, but then it hits what we call supercompensation. And that's your body saying, that was something very, very distressful, and I don't want that to happen again. I'm going to make myself fitter or stronger to avoid going through that hell. If you do not squat again when you're in supercompensation, you will return back to baseline and never get any stronger. But if you squat again when you're still in recovery, baseline will still decrease. Right? So the real answer to this is, it's dependent upon the individual. It's very hard, if not impossible, to control in a group environment. But I would say for most beginners, right, that would be like, you know, you've got to, and I count everybody as a beginner, being that if you follow a squat cycle and you're still improving every week, you're still a beginner. If you're squatting and nothing's going up, you're no longer a beginner, right? That you can squat once a week, deadlift once a week, and press once a week. You have to have also respect for recovery of your central nervous system between the squat and the deadlift, because your central nervous system is massively taxed and overloaded by those two movements, because A, you lift more weight than in any other movement, and B, they involve so many muscles. So I normally squat and program squats on a Monday and deadlifts on a Friday, right? Because it gives you that recovery in between, and in between deadlift and squat, it gives you the weekend. All right?
Is that like at your 1 rep max type of thing, or just like a regular workout?
Well, depends what you mean a regular workout. You mean like a strength component or a metcon?
I don't know.
Right? Like if it was a strength component, yeah, then every week. If it was a metcon, you could probably do one every day because the loads are submaximal. So your nervous system's not as stressed. All right?
Any other questions? All right, so before you guys head out, we want to go and thank Kevin and take a group picture. Kevin, this is nothing like we did. I mean, again, you were awesome. So give him a round of applause. I had my mind blown like several times today. It's just something small so you can remember us. Thank you again. Hang out, drink some beer. We're gonna have the game on. So you guys. Make sure you guys talk to Kevin before he heads out. Let's take a group picture if we can. Everyone in the front row.